Good evening. We'd like to call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board to order for Tuesday, April 15th, 2014. If you'd all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk Rotary, roll call, please.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Pompo.
Here.
Trustee Durant.
Here.
Trustee Trescott.
Here.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rotary is here, and Supervisor Limata.
Here.
Staff here is Manager Gerard and Fire Chief Bob Sims. Committee members here are Dave Wiegand, Mike Springer, and John Marks. And Leanne Kaczmarski is here also.
Thank you, Clerk Rotary. Next item on our agenda is approval of the consent agenda. As you know, the consent agenda typically includes those items that do not require immediate board action. This evening's includes the approval of the prior meeting minutes of April 1st. You'll notice under 4B, 1, the Community Events Committee report, as well as the 40 Below event, the Iron Range Roll. It is on the consent agenda. There are no materials in your packet. We do have actual live performances after the approval of the agenda. We'll come back to those two items. The Planning Committee meeting was canceled, I believe. The Rec Committee was held this evening, so we do not have the report in there, although I'm sure the Rec Committee liaison will report on it during board member comment. Roads Committee report from the liaison with minutes from March 19th and draft minutes from April 1st. The Sheriff's report from March, Fire Marshal's report from March, the March Water Production report, and this evening includes correspondence regarding the Upper Peninsula Children's Coalition Conference set for May 16th, a letter of support from the Township for the North Star Academy for some KBIC 2% money, letter of appreciation from Walmart for their 20-year celebration to Manager Gerard for his attendance, and notice of hearings scheduled for UPCO. Also this evening, bills payable in the amount of $140,067.98. And unless somebody wants to make an adjustment to the consent agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
And I do have a planning report. We did have a meeting last week.
Okay, and you'll do that during board member comment, or? Okay, great. Thanks, Lynn. We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is approval of the remainder of the agenda. Are there any board members wishing to make changes to the agenda as presented? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve. We have motion and support. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. The agenda is approved. Thank you. Next order of business will be the Community Events Committee report. And Julie and Leanne, if you would like to approach the podium. Or Julie, are you just here for moral support?
Yep, she's just here.
Leanne, just make sure that microphone's on there.
Hello?
Yeah. I can
Is it
hear.
on?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to give you guys an update tonight on, we've set our calendar for the year of when the events will be. And the first event this year is going to be the Iron Range Roll, and Dave Nyberg is here tonight from 40 Below to give you a little presentation on that and their group. And that is going to be June 6th. The Catch the Vision Car Show will be held again this year in Applebee's parking lot, and that will be June 21st. And then the Community Day at Lions Field will be August 2nd. We're moving it back to the first Saturday of the month again this year in August. And then our final event this year will be the Township Christmas tree lighting and festivities that go along with that. And that will take place on December 2nd. So we have our calendar set. It will be going up on the Convention Bureau's website and the Township website very shortly here in the next couple of days. I have to email it to Jason and to Pat Black and so forth. We're kind of evolving a little bit where, you know, this is our 4th year, and the whole goal was to get these events set in place, that they were annual events for the township and the community. and kind of have other groups or whatever step in and take over actually running them. And the car show this year, we have participants from several of the car clubs that will be working with us. And our hope is that because they like our event so much and we've had so much positive feedback, that perhaps next year they'll just be doing it on their own. So we'll see how it goes in June. And then for the community day, I had received an email from Pete about the Lions Club kind of getting more involved with actually running the community day. So we'll be talking about that further. And let's see here. Only real changes to events this year for the community day. We're going to try and have more activities for the kids. We have 2 bounce houses that are currently rented for that day, but we're looking at involving maybe some volunteer groups, whether they be 4-H or whatever, to do some face painting and run some children's games. So there's more to do there for the kids, and probably these activities will more so take place over towards where the playground is. And we have somebody new running the softball tournament this year because what am I drawing a blank on her name? Whitney is actually staying in Superior, Wisconsin. She's not coming home for the summer. So the lady who did the raffle last year, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's actually going to be organizing and running the tournament for us again this year. So anyway, that's about it. So Dave?
Thanks, Leanne.
Yep.
Thanks to Randy, my surprise technical advisor here for the slideshow presentation. Hello everyone, board. My name's Dave Nyberg. I'm a board member for the 40 Below Young Professionals in Marquette County. And Randy, I guess I'll just give you a thumbs up, I guess, whenever I'm ready for the next. There's not very many slides. But I did want to say thanks to Leanne and the Special Events Committee, and also township staff have been very accommodating to our organization as we've worked to establish the idea for this event and what it would look like into the future, and especially in its first year. And I think this is our 4th official engagement with the township. So Marquette Township has been extraordinary, and we really appreciate the outreach from the committees and staff, and now the opportunity to present in front of the board is great. Thank you very much for your time. I did want to make one correction. Our event is on June 7th. I wanted to double check the calendar because I know it's 6th. No worries. I knew it was a Saturday, and I had to double check and think, have I been saying the 7th this whole time? Anyway, the Iron Range Roll, you can see on the screen there is our logo and the date and the name of the organization. A little bit about 40 Below Young Professionals. We were founded in 2010 as a venue for professional development and networking in Marquette County. We're a county-wide organization. I think we fluctuate with the membership year. I think our peak is usually around 150 members, and we're looking to increase that this year. We have members from the West End to Scandia, where I'm from, and Gwynn, the township, city of Marquette, Negaunee, and Ishpeming. So we represent it pretty well. We're working on branching out further south of the county and further west of the county as well, but it's a big county, so we try to make sure our events are accommodating to all of our members. We're in our 5th year. We're continuing to grow. As I mentioned, in our size and scope and mission last year, we did a membership survey to get feedback. It was our first such wide range survey, and we had great participation to try and guide our organization what we want to be. We're continuing to evolve, and obviously we exist to benefit our members. So we want to make sure we're being responsive in that regard as a board. One of the things that we was received very loud and clear as a result of our membership survey last year was that our members, not surprisingly, being a young professional group in Marquette County, they want more recreation-based events, and this is a community that values its recreation opportunities and quality of life, and more opportunities to give back and volunteer. You're seeing this with the Generation Y generation. A lot of people are choosing to live in Marquette for their career, and that's also a generation that likes to give back and volunteer. So we're looking to provide more events that give this outlet to our members, and also consider that option as something in the future if you're looking for volunteers. Our organization is a good source for that. So we came up with the idea for the Iron Range Roll. kind of based on this, and that's why I provide this background information. We also kind of retooled our mission statement there, which is listed in blue. And our mission statement is to connect the working professionals of Marquette County under the age of 40 through networking, professional development, civic engagement, and social and recreational opportunities. Civic engagement and the recreational piece definitely are the main changes, so we're continuing to evolve as an organization, which is kind of the outgrowth and the vision for this event, the Iron Range Roll. We started having conversations as a result of analyzing the survey and plotting as the new board was formed. I came on as a board member last fall, and plotting our vision for the organization moving forward. And the idea came about to create an annual signature recreation-based event that was family-friendly for members of ours who have families, but also to engage more with the community and to see that event as a way to raise funds for a good cause, so organization could become more philanthropic in the community as well. So we're ticking a lot of these boxes here with the Iron Range Roll. It's kind of a great event. It's actually grown into even bigger than what we had imagined. We initially had discussed doing a volleyball tournament or a kickball tournament, something unique. We recognize that the 5K, 10K race market's pretty saturated, and that's a good thing. We have a lot of great events in this area that provide that opportunity for people who live here. But we couldn't ignore the symbolic and wonderful asset that we have in the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. And the idea came up to use the Iron Ore Heritage Trail as an event venue. And we approached the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, Carol Fulsher, and the board about this idea and kind of had a brainstorm session. And we got their blessing to move forward and realized that this would be the first actual official event on the trail. So we're very excited about that. It makes us also a little bit nervous because we're the first event, but we're hoping that we can be also a learning experience for other events that have come forward. In the meantime, the Marquette Marathon has moved its venue to the trail, so we're partnering with them, which has been kind of a nice experience as well to learn from each other, because they obviously have the history and experience in that event. We do not have in an event like this, but hopefully we can learn from them. They can learn from us as we have our event in June. Of course, the vision for this event is to create a signature recreation-based event that adds to our region's quality of life. We have a lot of great opportunities for residents who live here and visitors alike, and we hope that this adds to that and makes it something more unique that doesn't give something that's already provided to the community. So we think that this event does that. The other key aspect of this vision was to bring people more together, like our organization is, a countywide organization, to bring people throughout the county together and not focus our event in one particular community. And the Iron Ore Heritage Trail is obviously a great venue for that reason. So what is the Iron Range Roll? Why is it called the Iron Range Roll? We get a lot of questions about this. As you might guess from the logo, it's an event that offers several different recreational opportunities, opportunity to ride bicycle, put a relay team together, or run the entire route point to point. It is a point-to-point race, a fun race. It's meant to be fun and family-friendly and casual recreation. We're not out targeting the hardcore racers, but we're also not going to turn them away. But we're going to let them go first if they decide to go, and those would probably be the members of the cycling community. And they have come forward. They're very excited about this event because it's totally unique and there's not anything like it. So we do have interest from that competitive recreation community, and we're also hoping that we can see families out there on the trail enjoying this event together. It's a point-to-point race along the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. I discussed that. It's going to start at the Cliffs Shaft Museum and end at Marquette Commons. We may be a little bit away from Marquette Commons. We're trying to figure that out with the DDA and Marquette and the city, because the farmers market's going on. We make sure that we're a safe event and we're not creating hazards for anybody. But really this event is about the trail and highlighting the trail as an asset. So we wanted to make sure our start and finish rather, and our relay points were at trailheads. And this serves a good function because of the fact that there's parking at some of these trailheads. It's a good way for people to become familiar with them, and it also creates kind of a unique aspect of the race. One of the things we get a lot of questions on with that point, and I'll get to it more in depth in a minute, is that the trailheads are obviously not equidistant to each other, so it's not going to be an equidistant relay. I already mentioned there's 3 ways to participate and 3 waves of starts. The bikes will go first, and then the relay run teams. So actually, we also added, we're going to market this as bike teams, because we've gotten from the cycling community that cyclists like to ride in teams of 4 and have a team time. So the first You start it when they first start, and then the last team member to cross is the end of their time. Apparently, this is an added benefit to this event, so we're gonna add it at the request of some of the cycling communities, and they will go first. Then we're going to start the relay teams, then we'll start individual runners. One of the unique things, this is a long 16 miles, point to point. It's not, it's not an insignificant distance, and not everybody can run 16 miles. I can barely run a 5K, so I know how hard it is. But for those who are training for marathons, we view our event as an added benefit for somewhat a semi-competitive event on the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, especially for somebody who might be looking to participate in the Marquette Marathon, because it's going to be on the same route. So we're gonna be hopeful that people who are training for marathons will look at our event as an opportunity. Proceeds of our event will benefit the YMCA's Reach and Rise Youth Mentoring Program. This is a fairly new program to Marquette County especially, but also to Michigan. Marquette County YMCA was the only program in the state of the state YMCA's to receive this program. It's a very unique youth mentoring program for at-risk youth. And because our members, we view our members being a good opportunity for mentors for this program, and we already have some of our members in 40 Below who are mentors in this program, we thought there was a nice tie-in that this would be our beneficiary area of the proceeds. So the events, I already went through some of this. It's on Saturday, June 7th. We're going to do registration from 9 to 10:30 in the morning at the Cliff Mine Shaft Museum. We're working still on specific details with the city of Ishpeming and John Kangas as to where that specific route was going to go. Apparently they have some construction going on. We want to be mindful of that, so meeting with him on Friday. But for all intents and purposes, we're starting at the Cliff Shaft Mine Museum, and we're going to kick it off. The bikers at 11, 5-minute intervals after that, maybe even quicker. And then we're going to do a safety sweep. We're going to have aid stations throughout the course. We're going to have one at each relay location, but we're also going to do a safety sweep at the end, make sure everybody's good to go, because we're going to have volunteers at road crossings and EMS on the phone and all of that. So we're actually also having, which is kind of a fun part of this event, is we're having an awards celebration at the Oradoc Brewing Company, appropriately tied into the theme of the Iron Ore Heritage Trail and the heritage of our county. So we're looking forward to that. That'll be upstairs at the Oradoc Community Space, and there'll be some awards and some opportunity for everybody to mix and mingle and have a good time afterwards. I'll also point out that there is a Trails Festival happening on the South Trails for more competitive mountain bikers this day, and that's a weekend-long event. They have events going Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the No Cayman on Trail Network, and we're actually working with them. We're marketing. They're having an event, live music and a social event later this evening on the 7th, and we're advertising that opportunity for people who might come from out of town or for people who are from the area who might want to go to that as well and celebrate our wonderful trails in Marquette County. This is the route. Those little dots are trailhead indicators. I just pulled this as a screen, shot off of the Iron Ore Heritage Trail website. We're getting some better imaging from Elegant Seagulls to kind of capture the visual of where these trails are and mark it a little bit better, and that'll be on our website when it's finished. But this is the route. As I mentioned, you can see the distances there between the relays. That's kind of neat. Actually, as a result of the relay, one of the relay locations being at the Michigan Iron Industry Museum, there's a little bit of a trail spur that connects to that trailhead. That's about half a mile. So the total relay distance will be 17 miles. The relay intervals are different. Depending on how you break it down, I want to say it's 3 miles, 3 miles, 7 miles, and then 3.2 or something. So we're just telling folks you need 3 5Kers and 1 10Ker. That's about the right ballpark figure. If you're trying to figure out whether you can do this or not, find the go-getter who can run the 10K on June 7th, and if you can put 3 5Kers together, you guys get out and get a team together and raise some money for a good cause and have a good time. That's where we're pushing the relay teams. Here's a little bit about the relay route, marked with the trailhead numbers. Of course, we're starting at Cliff Shaft Mine Museum. The first relay leg will start, or the second relay leg will start at Old Town Park in Negaunee, city of Negaunee, which is right there by the senior center. The third relay leg will start at the Michigan Iron Industry Museum in Negaunee Township, and the last relay leg will start at Schwemmwood Park here in Marquette Township to begin the trail on to the finish at Marquette Commons in the city of Marquette. One of the things I really like about this slide is it shows that we're touching every single jurisdiction and involving every single community along the route on the Iron Ore Heritage Trail from the start to finish. It'd be great one day to get out to Republic, or move on to Chocolate. And actually, we've gotten some interest from some of the more serious cycling community folks in the community here who would like to maybe build on this event and make a century ride for cyclists next year. Maybe start in Republic and come down to Chocolate and go back. So that's just an idea at the moment, but we're real excited about that and building the opportunity. So, but for now, we're doing Ishpeming, Negaunee Township, Marquette Township, and City of Marquette. This is why we call it the roll. This is the trail elevation profile, and move your eyes from the far left all the way to where Ishpeming is. That's quite a trail elevation drop. It's about 1,000-foot descent. I did that. This is kind of my ballpark from my eyesight there. But it should be a good time. But we're also cognizant of the safety implications of this. We're going to encourage folks to exercise caution, and that's why we're going to have aid stations along the route, and we have an emergency plan in place as well. We're also planning to have volunteers, we will have volunteers at every road crossing, and this is where some of the jurisdictions like Marquette Township have been real helpful with us in telling us where we should have volunteers staged at. And we have an online volunteer registration process ongoing right now to recruit volunteers, and that's going really well. So if you're interested in volunteering and not running, you can go to our Facebook page and on 40 Below Facebook page, and there's a link to where you can sign up to volunteer and where. Why are we doing it? Talked a little bit about this already. This event promotes healthy living, promotes family-friendly recreation it promotes focus on the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. It's a tremendous community asset that we have that we want to showcase. And it promotes fun and modest competition for everyone of all ages and all abilities. The other unique thing here is, we're celebrating our heritage in Marquette County. The Iron Ore Heritage Trail is very symbolic of our county's heritage and the connection of our communities here. So we're real excited about that as well. Proceeds of the race, we don't think we're going to make a lot of money the first year. We're obviously hoping we can get 500 people registered. Probably realize that's not going to be a reality, but we're hoping to raise a few bucks for a good cause, the Reach and Rise program. And hopefully the excitement about this event will build year after year, and we'll get to that point where we can cut a nice check to the Reach and Rise program. The 25% of the proceeds will stay with our community fund, and the main reason for that is so we have seed money for next year. That's the tricky part about getting an event up and running. And I guess I'll comment on that point too. We do have our sponsorship form available. If there are community businesses interested in sponsoring, we have different levels of sponsorship, starting at sponsoring a relay team and up to a signature dynamite sponsorship, where only 3 of those levels are available, and then title sponsor as well. This is the main reason we're doing it. Really, of course, it all boils down to this. Look at how beautiful that photo is. Kids on bikes, out with their family, having a great time, and look at that scenery. That's right in our backyard, and that's the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. So we want to make sure people are aware of this. There's a little bit of information about the Reach and Rise program. I won't go through all of the bullets, but if you're interested in this, I put this on here because I often get people that ask more about the program. They're interested in Reach and Rise, and they never knew it existed. And we're obviously trying to push this program and market this program as well, because it is new. Melissa DeMars' name is listed there. She's the director of the program. She's an active member of the planning committee for this event. She's been wonderful. And you'll start to hear her voice on some public service announcements advertising the event coming out in the near future. So that's Melissa. Please contact her if you'd like to learn more about this program, if you'd like to volunteer, if you know somebody who'd like to volunteer, or if you'd like to get involved with her, this YMCA aspect of our event. Would be remiss if I didn't put up registration and put in a good pitch for that. We obviously could use your help in spreading the word about this event. It's very affordable, $25, and it gets you also a nice performance t-shirt, the dry wicking t-shirt. And the t-shirts look great. I need to add a slide to this presentation. It's basically that logo on a gray t-shirt, a big logo, and they're going to look really cool. So for $25, you get a cool t-shirt, and you get to have a great time and give back to the community. Registration's on ironrangeroll.com. That's our new and improved website. We had a temporary website with registration, and now we have a better form where you can put in your t-shirt sizes and stuff like that. So please direct folks to that website. And I actually have some leave behinds, just little note cards that I'll leave behind if you're interested. So that's it. That's my presentation. I appreciate the time. I know I took up probably a little bit more time than planned. I'm available for questions. My phone or my email's there, as well as our 40 Below's general information email. If you have questions after the fact, we encourage you to reach out. We are on Facebook. We have a Facebook page for 40 Below and a Facebook page for the Iron Range Roll. Thank you for your time, Board.
Thanks, Dave. It was great. Very ambitious. I know the first time we sat down, you kind of told us that you were looking for a project, and what it looks like now. You guys have been busy. But it's a great cause, and what we'll ask Randy is have the link to their registration to their website posted on our website, as well as we can put it on our Facebook page and try to get the information out. If you have leave behind cards, we'll stick them out here in the front and see what we can do to help you promote it. Thank you.
I'll leave this behind.
The next item on our agenda is going to be public comment. Those members of the public wishing to address the board may do so at this time.
Mike Springer, Eagles Nest Road. I'm here on behalf of the Recreation Committee to give you some information and get some information out to the public. We have, as you know, we've applied for 3 state grants, and part of those grants is a visit by both the MNRTF and the Passport Grant Coordinator. So we want to make sure that our parks are looking as good as possible. So we're asking people that are interested in helping clean up Schwemmwood Park and getting it ready for Trails Day. And I see David just left. I want to coordinate with him because on June 7th is National Trails Day. And of course, that's when this rock and roll event is going to happen. The Rec Committee plans to celebrate Trails Day at Schwemmwood Park. Now, I haven't talked to the Rec Committee about this, but I think we can participate or we can help out with this rock and roll and become part of that event at the Schwemmwood Trailhead. So on the 10th of May, hopefully in less than a month, we'll be able to see the ground, and we're going to have a cleanup there at Schwemmwood. On May 17th, we're going to clean up Lions Field and make sure we have the appropriate signage up there. And then again, at Schwemmwood, the National Trails Day, hopefully we'll be celebrating that with the 40 Below Club and the event going on there. So that's just an update. Also, I'll stay through item 8A just in case you have any questions about the ad hoc recreation feasibility study. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone else wishing to address the board during public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment, move to board member comment. Those members of the board wishing to make comment do so at this time. Lynn?
First, I was going to ask Mike, what time are the cleanups, or is the cleanup on the 10th?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
10 a.m. on both cleanups.
On Lions Field, too?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I finally attended a library meeting tonight. I just happened to check my calendar, and lo and behold, it was at 5 o'clock, so I threw myself together and got over there. They were about a third of the way through their presentation, their meeting, when I left, and that was at like 10 to 7. I pushed it because I wanted to hear a few more of the items, but unfortunately I didn't get that opportunity. But I was able to speak a little bit, too. I can find my notes. And then I'll tell you a couple of things that they had talked about. But I apologize to them for not being able to attend with some of the crazy medical things I've had to deal with. And we talked a little bit about, it was a rather open forum. There were comments, and I spoke, and comments back and forth. I told him that it was kind of our intent. The chairman asked me if I was the liaison, and I told him that our intent was kind of not to be that person, not to have a representative on that council, because we felt it might be more advantageous for us on a one-on-one communication between the two entities if I or one of us attended the actual board meeting. And that I told him I would work on trying to do that going forward. I do have a couple other comments I want to make about their minutes and stuff from the previous meetings. I did finally ask, I told them that at one of the TAC meetings that I did attend, that I had posed the question from us that we wondered if they had a different funding method possible in the back of their mind, or something they had tried before, or, I said I didn't expect that they would give me an answer tonight, but that maybe they could chew on it for another board meeting, or have a work session, or something, or maybe have Pam come back and speak to us, just so we could broach the subject. And there wasn't, I only had feedback really from the chairwoman a little bit and one of the trustees, who said that it was hard to undo Michigan's tax law, since paying for services is typically based on millages, which kind of makes sense. And they, he referenced Mr. Mark's attempt at making a recommendation on changing the funding, and that was apparently illegal because of the way the millage was set up in the states. And he did say, so I was asked why we were addressing this, or what was our reasoning for even suggesting it. And I said, well, we've done a lot of surveys and discussions and talking to the public, and their main issue is roads. And I said, in a lot of the results, roads came up more than once. And trails happened to be the second. So I said, in trying to honor that, we were looking at our funding. I said the topic came up in the budget discussions, and I said our budget's going to be starting in June or July, and we're trying to figure out which direction to go. The deadline, I believe, is July, clerk can correct me, 26th, I think, to get something on the November ballot. So we're going to have to, if and when we put something on the ballot to address the millage, we've got to do it pretty quick. So I was asked, because I'd mentioned the roads, whether or not we were going to have a road millage on this next ballot, either August or November. And I said that we hadn't really talked about it. We have one in place now. I couldn't remember how much it was. I was thinking it was 0.6, 0.8.
185.
85, okay. To use, and we had done, back is road, the first
Order.
word, thank you. And we had put some of the funds and general fund money to Brookton Road. And I said, we talked about putting some kind of language together for the next project. And I said, typically we word it for a project, and then that any other money leftovers could be put toward another road project. So it's very specific. And I don't know if they thought that we already had another road millage in place. I wasn't quite sure. But the one trustee again spoke up and said that he's been through the township, he's looked at the roads, and he noticed that some roads were better than others, and that if people want to have something like a new facility, they find a way to get it done, whether it's through millage or whatever other kind of support. And he said he thought that supporting the library could be one of those things, and should be, if the public was supportive of the library, that should go hand in hand with the library millage, with the road millage, excuse me. He also hoped that they wouldn't have to address an issue of us not putting it on the ballot. He brought that up, I didn't. So they asked me, then the chair asked me again basically what we wanted from them, and I said, well, we just figured that we needed to have a more one-on-one relationship. I said maybe the two boards get together once a year and sit down and talk about things, because basically we fund them, 10% of their township revenue comes from us. 10% of their revenue comes from us. 40% of their township revenue comes from us. So, we're kind of their boss, I guess. I don't know. Not really, because we can't tell them what to do, but... So I said, well, just the dialogue, the fact that I'm there, I would hope that I can inform the board as to what's going on, and if we have issues, I can go back and forth. They asked if I'd like to join them at the table. I said no, that I was, not really a participant. I was just an observer, a part of the public. So I spoke in public participation. So they're being challenged right now, and their financial report was pretty lengthy, the conversation, because, as you might remember, the city's going to a 15-month budget, and that's affecting them drastically because they have what they said was 3 months of no money coming in. So they're trying to rework their budget to accommodate that extra 3 months in their fiscal year. And it's, I think it's July 1st to June 30th is their current fiscal, and they're moving to October. So that's also throwing them for a loop. So they're trying to figure out how to deal with that. There was also a little bit of discussion from a presenter, I guess. He sat at the table and just made, and I don't know who he was. I didn't get his name. I'm sorry. But he was there talking about the city's newest local development finance authority that they're trying to develop, and that involves smart zones, and whether it will be, some of the discussion I had heard previously was that the city was going to try to expand its borders in order to accommodate the smart zone. This gentleman said that absolutely will not happen. And the library was concerned, of course, as to how much they were going to lose if a TIF district was, tax increment financing was going to be part of the financing side of what they were trying to do, the city. And they said that the only entity the state has included is the school system, and that the school system will be reimbursed by the state. So any monies that they would try to get grants for or reimbursement for this authority would be from the state, rather than, my assumption would have been the county. And they said no, it was the state, and that the school district was the only entity being affected, and that they would be reimbursed. So the library and the rest of the tax receiving entities in the city weren't going to be affected. They also can receive a 3-to-1 match for that. So their funds, any money they put in, would be compounded pretty quickly. They are having a public hearing on it, and I'm not sure if that's from the city. I guess you could check the library website or the city website on April 28th to discuss this. More than likely it's from the city. I'm kind of guessing. Also, they have a new cafe opening in the bottom floor of the library pretty quick. It's going to have healthy foods and homemade foods. So I didn't get a chance to hear, the city did request from them that they start putting a strategic plan together. So they're kind of chewing on that, figuring out what that's going to involve. I didn't get to hear the library director's report, anything on state aid. It says Township Advisory Council report. There was nobody else there, so I'm not sure. But they did ask if we minded if another township resident took that position. And I said, not that I know of. If there's someone interested, to have them get on the website and fill out the form, or call the office, or anybody to recommend that person. And they're also going to make some kind of changes to their bylaws. And again, that was at the bottom of the list, so I don't know what that involved. I can check the minutes when those are made available. And that was about it for the meeting. But I did go back the last few meetings, and just some of those statistics like I just threw out. If I can find it here real quick. It's in here. And I don't know, if you want to write this down or not, but there's just a couple that I wanted to throw at you. From 1993 till 2012, the millage election report gave an average of 68.5% of Marquette Township residents supporting the library millage. 68.5%. So I thought that was rather important to bring up. The other thing is they will be talking about our renewal probably at their next meeting, they said. And what that looks like. They said they have a committee ready to try to promote the library in the township. Some township residents, I'm guessing, that want to do this, so they said that we might be hearing from them. The the Township Advisory Council will probably head that up, and we could be hearing from them on that. Maybe that's, a couple other things. They've got estimated population of Marquette Township is at 3,905 residents. If we bought a library card for every one of those, it would be $115 per person. As it stands right now, what we contribute in 2014 should be $209,056, and that rounds out to $53.50 for each resident. Now at present, they have 1,881 card holders. So if we bought a card for every one of those card holders, it'd be $111 a piece, based on what we are contributing now. So as I said before, 10% of their income is from Marquette Township, and 46% of the township contributions, which is about $458,000, I'm pretty sure. That's pretty sizable. So yeah, July 29th for the November ballot. So that's my library report. The Planning Commission wasn't quite as long. We did talk about the joint meeting that we already had, and some education opportunities coming up for the Planning Commission. And of course, we're still trying to figure out the zoning text amendment and how to do the zoning for forest recreation. To keep trying to remember the term. There will be at the Citizens Forum at the Arena, April 21st. It's a Monday. The Recreational Authority feasibility report will be public. It'll be a public meeting. I don't have the time on that yet. 6 p.m.? Okay, thank you. And we talked a little bit about the shipping lanes that We Energies, you may have seen it in the paper, and I don't know if we'll discuss that again later. We talked a little bit about that. Up the Sky development update. The investors and the contractors and the developers are still working on trying to make that happen. There's some easement issues, from what I understand, that's kind of holding it up right now. So as of right now, that project is still in the works. And then we discussed the MNRTF grant submittals that Mike Springer talked about. So that's all I have. But I wanted to spend some time on the library because, like I said, I hadn't been there for a while.
Thanks, Lynn. Who else? Diana, anything?
I'd just like to thank the fire department for inviting the board to their banquet.
Ernie?
I'll hold my final comments at the end, until we.
Okay. Dan? Pete?
One question for Lynn is that the library has a millage coming up, and you're supposed to be voting online. That's they're asking for support. What was the deadline for that? Do you know, Lynn? They got grants going,
Let's say that again.
the grant, the Peter White Library's got a grant, and you can vote for it online.
Oh, I don't know. That might have been part of the director's report that I didn't get.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Road issues. An article in the paper yesterday about what we've been talking about. That the roads are very bad. So it's everything about the road. Now here they are in Lansing turning the roads back into gravel. So it is a serious problem. another serious problem is seen as parking in front of the box stores and the larger, in fire lanes anywhere. And that's, I think people are getting carried away and they're doing a lot of that, and it just bothers me when somebody just parks it and they're healthy as the rest of us and they just walk in and go shop and leave it right in front of the store in the fire lane. It just, I think we should maybe step up our enforcement of that. And also the, Dennis, I got a question for you. Were you notified or talked to about this We Energy route? I mean, here they take the longest route with the most congestion when they could have just went along the lake with less problem. Do they ever talk to us about something like that, or that's my question to you? It just seems like ridiculous. It's just that they just do it. I don't know. You're talking about safety and that, but then they do it just the opposite. So I just kind of wonder if they even consult the township on that. So that's all.
Yeah, Pete, I can answer real quick. We weren't consulted on it, but we were given a heads up the day before they were prepared to run it, that was the route that had been selected. We did have conversations between us, We Energies, and the city of Marquette in regards to the route, as well as with the trucking company that was contracted to actually perform the hauling. It was relatively short term, and only had to go for a couple of days before they were able to get ships in with coal. But yeah, we would have rather have had more of a heads up or more of discussion on the routing, but they thought it was the most expedient route due to the fact that they would have had to get permits to run on some of the shorter routes because of the going through the city, that roads that weren't prepared to handle that truck traffic apparently. But I think we did have a good conversation about it after the fact, and hopefully if the situation arose again, it was in response to an emergency due to the ice on the lake and the ships not being able to get in. But hopefully if it happens in the future, we'll have more of a dialogue before it occurs.
Thank you.
Clerk Rattari?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to bring up this evening was looking at the treasurer's report and our rough winter we've been having. I know the city of Marquette last week, I believe, had a 16-inch main break on one of their streets. It washed basically the whole street out. And it was in the Mining Journal. It's going to cost them over $500,000 to repair that street. And Marquette Township's been pretty lucky, I think, for most of the communities around locally here. But it always comes up at budget time, and I wanted to address this. We got money invested. We got $1.14 million in the wastewater and $605,000 in the water at the moment. Well, if we had an event like this, we have enough money to fix it. If we didn't do our due diligence in the past of gathering this money, we'd be in real tough shape, And it's not that it's just sitting there. We've got it invested to try to help the rates, for stabilizing rates and such and for projects. But I just wanted to make the residents known that if we had an emergency like this, we could handle it. And I'd like to commend the township board and everyone for that, because I think that's a pretty big accomplishment that we could, do something like this with that amount of money. So
Thanks,
that's all I
Clerk
have.
Yes.
Just to follow up on Clerk Rattari's on the financial, the dollars he indicated is true, but that money is also there to pay the wages and to keep everything going on a month-to-month basis too. So it goes up and down, it's fluctuations in that. And we have been fortunate to put some money away for some future projects, but if we have a major break, something like that, those future projects all of a sudden can be pushed into the future, way into the future in that. So you may think we have a lot of money there, which I think at times we have some, but until you start looking at it, it's there for a reason in that. And we're not overcharging anyone. We're just trying to make some very efficient planning for the future in that. So hopefully we don't have to need it for any emergency in that.
Thanks, Ernie. There's no other comment. We'll close board member comment. Move into unfinished business. Item number 8A, consider the draft report from the Ad Hoc Rec Authority Exploratory Committee as second reading and adoption. As you're aware, it's been before us a couple times now. It's the Ad Hoc Rec Authority's Exploratory Committee. As you read this as a second reading and adoption, it doesn't mean that we're moving forward with anything in there at this point. It just means that we've accepted the report. We think that certainly our representatives represented us very well on the committee. We think that a lot of hard work went into it. We're happy to see it moving forward. We'll see what it looks like after the public has the opportunity to weigh in on it, and then all the municipalities agree to either move forward or tweak it and go in another direction. But unless there is further comment, I think we would, be accepting it as a second reading and adoption. I'd need a motion to do that. Is there any other board member comment? Pete?
No, that the committee really have done a great job, searched it all. And I don't think they're done yet. I mean, there are a lot of options down the road. There's a lot of options down the road, and they'll just address that when it comes up. But as it stands right now, it's a great start. Thank the committee for doing that.
Thanks, Pete. Lynn, any other comments?
I'm wondering kind of how this fits into the paper that was at our place here. I watched this part of the meeting last night, and I don't have the numbers, so I didn't know which parcels this actually pertained to.
That's different. That is only on the tax tribunal issue.
Okay.
That resolution that we'll be dealing with later on in the meeting.
Okay. I personally am not in favor of an authority for this purpose at this time, but I like their recommendations. I like the idea of a committee made up of all of the entities with specific charges reporting back, with no individual authority that they have to come back to their respective communities. And that at least it narrows the focus down to trails, whether it's in Hartwood or anywhere. And I think if we want to collaborate, that's a good starting point. I just have some fears about the whole authority idea, and I wouldn't support that, but I can support what they've recommended, if that's what we're doing.
Basically accepting the report at this point, and
Okay.
while they made some recommendations in there, we're not approving anything other than accepting the report and saying, yes, we've accepted it, thank you. After the public hearings are held, it'll be open for debate at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Diana, comments? Ernie?
I follow Lynn's thoughts too. I look at the feasibility. It's a feasibility report as they move forward in that, and that's about the extent of it at this point in time too. It will come back to us. There's no real commitment from this board at this point in time other than accepting the feasibility committee report, and that's it.
Okay. Dan? Clerk Secretary? Like I said, I made my comments. I think that they did a great job. I thank Mike Springer and Jason McCarthy for the hard work that they put in on it. I know it was time consuming, and you asked for the extension, you got it. I think that the group that was involved took their roles very seriously. I think that the output that you have brought forward to us is awesome. I mean, I think it shows the possibilities that we have before us, what that looks like as we move forward. We'll see how the public hearings go, what the other municipalities do, and as we come together, it'll be interesting to see which direction we head. But thanks, Mike. We do have a motion and a second to accept the Ad Hoc Rec Authority Exploratory Committee's draft report as a second reading and adoption. If there's no other comment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Next item on our agenda is 8B, consider the manager's recommendation on policy and procedures manual. Again, this was carried over from the meeting of 2 weeks ago. I know that you guys had the opportunity to discuss it at that meeting that I was not at. It was, again, presented after having been run through legal counsel for updates to the language based upon current laws that were mandated by the Michigan State Legislature and the Governor's Office. I think both Lynn and Dan had the opportunity to provide some feedback back to Manager Gerard, and Randy, I'm going to kick this over to you and for your recommendation.
Supervisor, you're correct. Trustees, Grant and Comparable had some questions related to this one. I had copied those. Hit the button. I had copied those back out to the full board members, so it would have the opportunity. That was just today, so if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that, check your emails. Basically, what we have is the last time the policy manual was fully reviewed and adopted by the board was in October of 2008. And we've been living with those policies essentially since that time. And approximately 2 years ago, well, now it's been about 2 years now, when the legislature and the governor started making significant changes to employment regulations and laws in the state of Michigan, we began an undertaking of a review to ensure that we were in compliance with those new laws as they came into effect. And we did refer that off to our labor counsel, Bodman, down in Detroit, and they've taken quite a bit of time going through the evaluation of the policies, both our general operating policies and also the fire department policies, because as they were reviewing them, the laws continued to change. And every time the law changed, it changed several of the policies, and they interacted with other policies, and they basically did re-reviews. The general policies that you have before you now are the culmination of all of those changes, as well as some of the changes that we recently made in the negotiation of our collective bargaining agreements. Now, the policy manual itself is not intended to track the bargaining agreements. The policy manual is a standalone document, basically it's a basic set of rules that is then modified by your collective bargaining agreement. So anything that's in a collective bargaining agreement supersedes what a corresponding policy may say. So they're not always going to track. The policy manual may be substantially less, or it may have slightly different definitions in it compared to what the labor agreements actually have. So as it sits right now, the only aspects of this policy manual that would apply to township staff are those that are not also covered by a labor agreement. Everybody is covered by a labor agreement or an individual contract. Currently, there are no employees that are not covered by either an individual contract or a group contract. So the policy manual is a basis for those things not included in contracts.
Randy, let me ask you this. That having been said, that's a change since the policy manual was updated last in 2008. Those policies then that are redundant or useless because they're covered by bargaining units, contracts, do we need to have a manual with policies that don't apply to anybody?
Well, I think you do still need to have a policy manual, because we may put temporary employees on that would not be members of a bargaining unit. Summertime, things such as that, these would be the operating guidelines. And beyond that, this is where the information resides, and those things that the board wishes to retain direct control over. You're not going to bargain, you're not going to establish Monday through Friday office hours, things such as that, and that's what falls into these policies, and that's why they're important to have. You still need some basic guidelines. These are the policies basically that establish your positions. As for instance, you are going to have health insurance, you are going to have life insurance, and we may be losing a member or two here. Is that okay? But you know, those are the kinds of things that you want to retain in your policy manual. Those items that you are not willing to bargain on. You establish the guidelines for the operation of the township as a governing body. Those reside in your policies. They reside in these policies. They reside in your board policies. So it is important to retain these. Now, as of today, the fire department policies have been completed for review. The only thing that remains there is, I got an email from Aaron Graves just this afternoon that said the only thing he is wanting to do is, our power plant insurance carrier also puts out some recommended policies for fire departments. He wants to coordinate with those and make sure we don't have any conflicts. So we should be seeing those for your next board meeting.
Okay.
What my recommendation would be, and there are some, these are as they came from the attorney, and I know there were some questions about grammar and grammatical and word choices and things such as that. They came, these are as they came from the attorney. I simply moved them to you with the exception We did make some changes in collective bargaining that you wanted to apply to everybody, so those changes are included in here. There aren't many. There are some fairly small ones. Where we are running into a little bit of confusion, I think, in the policies is, both trustees raised the question about the basic work week and full-time, part-time versus salary. Those we still retain. If you're anything less than 40 hours, you're part-time. There was a question about the 30 hours a week. The 30 hours deals with the Affordable Care Act, and that says if you have somebody, even if they're part-time, if they're working 30 hours a week or more, you must offer health insurance. So that's where that 30 hours comes in. That doesn't change their employment status of part-time or full-time.
Okay.
So some of those things are in there, and you may want to still revisit that at some point.
So what you're asking us for now, though, is a motion to approve the policy and procedures manual as presented from legal counsel as the updated policy and procedures manual. And then I believe that you'd also said that then you would schedule meetings with the Personnel Committee to start to review those policies for updates, correct?
Well, since we are receiving this as recommendations from council, what I had recommended is that the board adopt those as recommendations from council, and then potentially, if you wish, refer them to the Personnel Committee for refinement in questions or proposed changes that could then go back to the attorney to see if it's still in compliance with the law, basically, the way you want to change them.
Okay.
For 15, targeting 2015 January as the change date.
Okay. What's the board's pleasure? Make a motion or board comment? Dan?
My only concern is the fact that, and I understand that the policy, personnel policy manuals is designed for anyone that is not under a contract, but due to the Michigan Right to Work Act, people can leave the union, and therefore they would now fall under the personnel manual. My only concern is that the issues of sick leave, health insurance, and all that is the same as it is in the contractual thing. If it's different in the personnel manual, these people are going to be getting different. They'll have different
Well,
points.
but in that regard, if I'm a member of a bargaining unit and I decide not to pay dues to belong to that unit, I'm still covered by that contract, and they are obligated to represent me, so I would still fall under the union contract provisions, even though I'm not paying dues.
Are we sure on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the wording basically that came. That's the new law. The right to work law basically says that you have all of the protections of a union, but you do not have to belong to the union as long as you're eligible.
But if you don't belong to the union, then I don't understand how you could be a part of their contract.
They are
if
obligated
you're not a union.
They are obligated to still represent you under the. That's why this law is so confusing to so many people.
Are we obligated as an employer to recognize them as being part of that contract?
That's an issue between the individual and the union, not the employer. But the way the law is written and the way the law applies is if you are eligible, every union contract specifies the positions that are covered. Let's say we have 3 widget makers. One of those widget makers decides they don't want to be in the union. They still have all of the benefits that the widget makers have and all of the representation rights to representation by the union, but they're not obligated. It's a right-to-work state now, Michigan. It's a right to work. You do not have to belong to a bargaining unit if one exists. But they are obligated to provide you protections and benefits. You're eligible to bid for jobs just like any bargaining unit member, and you have to have equal consideration.
Clerk Terry?
Yes, and it doesn't make sense, and those people are called
At all.
free riders.
They are, and there are still legal challenges going forward through the courts to address it. There have been some state employees have already been exempted. There are bills pending currently to exempt police and fire. There are other bills pending for other groups. There are retirement issues that are trying to be addressed through the courts, and you're seeing it in Detroit right now.
Pete, you had a question?
Yes, you said that the fire department manual is still with the attorneys. Will that affect this one here?
Well, the personnel policies apply to all township staff. But what the fire department has is a separate set of policies that are operating policies that are specific to the fire department and the operations of the fire department.
I just thought if we're gonna move on without that, why should we wait until you get that back?
Well, they're mirror. You're gonna
Okay.
see basically there is a personnel policy section, but legally, you're going to see that mirror basically the general policies. Where you're gonna see primarily differences are those things that are specific to a fire department. Some of the personnel policies have to be different because, you know, they
operate different.
Well, you have to have the SCBA masks and all kinds of things, and, you know, so you have facial hair issues and things such as that other employees don't have. So, there are different sets of policies that apply to the fire department that will be different than what we have.
Thank you.
Dan?
And I'm not doubting the whole idea here. My only concern is, should we not, I really would like to make sure that this is, if we can just find out from legal if this is right. I hate to have somebody, you know, all the work we went through in negotiations to have everything straight and wrong, and have somebody decide, I don't want to be in the union, but I'm going to follow your manual, which is completely opposite of what the negotiation end of it is. And you know, I mean, it's up to the board, but
The individual,
I have
the
concerns.
individuals don't have the option to pick. They only have the option to pay dues or not pay dues.
And Clerk
They don't have the
Secretary,
option.
you're pretty confident that it,
Yeah, well, what I understand about this right to work law is, and it doesn't make sense, so I can't say any more than that. But yes, you get full union protection and representation even though you're not paying dues. So if I left the union, for instance, I'd have all the rights and privileges as my coworker, but I'm not paying dues. And I don't think that makes for a very good workforce, but that's the way it's set up. And then it gets political, so I'm not going to get into that realm. But but I understand your
my only concern was the fact, I understand that they have to represent you, and I understand that is, but my biggest question is, are you still under their contract? That's my question.
Yes, you still follow their contract because you're still represented by them. So
Right,
you're
and that
following
is-
their contract.
That specific question is going to be addressed the first time there's a vacancy in a bargaining unit position and a member who is not paying dues with equal time and grade. I won't say seniority, I'll say time and grade for the position applies for it. And that's going to end up in court, and that's going to answer that question. But as it sits right now, the way the right to work provisions are written and are currently being interpreted is, the only difference is you're not paying dues. That's it.
other questions or comments? Lynn?
Just to follow up, I did get an email from the Michigan Hotel Association, of which I'm a member, that half of the legislature has already approved going back to 40 hours for health insurance. So it may pass or fail, but it's possible that 30 hours is going to be eliminated. The governor's kind of against it, I guess.
Well,
So
but
that may
again,
come.
that's on the private sector, not on the public sector.
Oh, really? It wouldn't apply?
They are different laws. Public sector and private sector have different laws.
Okay. Never mind.
No, I mean, it's, you're right, and that's where a lot of the confusion comes in, is that public sector is governed differently than private sector. There are things that public sector are required to do that private sector is not. Private sector is not required to comply with the Fair Labor Standards Act, for instance. You can pay every one of your employees a different rate of pay if you wish. Public sector, we can't.
Okay. Well, Randy?
Yeah, as I stated before, I will move this, that we accept the policy and procedures manual as recommended, and then I would like to, if it's adopted, I would like to move that to the Personnel Committee for the annual review for 2015. And then they could, any policies that have changed or they feel need to be updated can be addressed with legal, and then I would think every January then we could, we'd have an updated manual. So I guess that would be my motion.
And if the board goes forward with that approval, that would be, all of the grammatical issues in that were raised would be corrected.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Other comment? Ernie?
Part of it I agree with. Rather than wait for year end, I think the Personnel Committee should go through this because the last time was adopted was in 2008. I think it's time to go through it and take a good look at it and see if there are any additional changes that we may need to want to bring to the board for their discussion on that too. So rather than wait for year end and just look at those items that the attorney was talking about, take a good look at it and go forward on it. And it may come back the same thing, and it may come back with some suggestions for the board to look at.
Yeah, my recommendation wasn't to wait till year end. My recommendation was to kick it to the Personnel Committee because by the time you get through it, identify the things that you want to change, it goes back to the attorney and gets back to us. It's going to be the end of the year, so we'd be doing it to be effective January 1st, is what I was suggesting.
Yes, I was a trustee when this happened, and Ernie, you're absolutely right, but it just doesn't happen. It took us 2 years to get this updated, and that's a meeting. I mean, it just takes a long period of time, so, because you can only get like an hour or two every, few weeks, and we're busy people. And like I said, it took, I think Dan, Trustee Pompo, and Fire Chief Sims were involved too last time. I mean, it took us 2 years to get this done.
Just scheduling the meetings is going to be horrendous and encountered during the summer.
So my it will be 2015 before you do get done.
I just want to make sure we understood that it's not waiting until year end and then we're going to do something. It's going to start working towards it piecemeal until we get to the year end.
Well, I'll amend my motion so it's not year end. It just kicks immediately to the Personnel Committee.
Okay, who seconded it?
I did.
That's amenable to you as well?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other comment? Seeing none, we have a motion to consider the adoption of the Policy and Procedures Manual as presented by legal counsel, with it then moving forward to the Personnel Committee for review. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Next item on your agenda is 8C, consider the Power Plan Zone representatives. I tried to sneak away to Florida and make you guys just get through some of this, but
Almost got you nominated.
these last three things look awful familiar from the agenda that I missed. This one, we've never had a representative there, and I know it's available. Has anybody in the board made a decision that they would like to be selected or considered as a Power Plan Zone representative to throw your name in the ring? If not, we can close this one and move real quick.
I've kind of been considering it, but I left the information on my kitchen table to call them today and find out. It looks like it's at least 4 meetings a year, and then and it also looks like it's an actual election. So you don't have representatives from each county in that zone or that township. You have it for the whole zone. So if the gentleman in place from Houghton, Calumet County or township,
Yeah, you get your name on a ballot.
with him, I'd have my name on there. So do you know how many other meetings it involves a year? Because it's lots of traveling then.
Power Plan is involved in the MTA's annual educational session. They're involved in that. It's primarily the organizational meetings, their board meetings, basically in terms of managing their budget, what programs they're going to put on, what they're going to do with the MTA coordinating. Power Plan is the group that oversees our insurance plan. So it's your risk management, it's the workers' compensation, general liability coverages. The agent basically that works with our Power Plan is in the Houghton area, Rabbit Bay, just outside of Houghton and Hancock. The annual agency, they've been our insurance representative for as long as I've been here, and it looks like long before that. But I have to ask you, when was the last time you voted for the Power Plan rep?
That's why I didn't know anything about it.
It's very similar. There's not a whole lot of voting that goes on, basically. If you're interested in being a representative on the Power Plan board, basically, and you get your name on the ballot, it's a relatively simple election. There are not a lot of applicants. It's not a tremendous amount of time, but they do meet quarterly, as you mentioned, and there are other activities and functions that they do. They put out the little newsletter. I think it's every other month. They put out the Power Plan news, basically. It's not a horrendous time commitment, but it is a time commitment. It's like any other board. There is some travel involved in it.
Lines where everybody's standing in a line and everybody takes a step backwards and you forgot to step backwards and now you're the park plan representative.
Yep.
Well, the deadline isn't right now anyway, so I
No,
guess I could
it's not
call
right
him
now.
tomorrow and.
Absolutely.
I wasn't sure if I had to have a yes for this board or not.
Well, if you want, we'll make a motion that if, should you decide to become the park plan
To
representative,
not step back.
move forward because you have our unanimous support. Ernie.
What amounts to is, the power plan meets, like a manager said, at least 4 times, maybe 5 times.
Yeah, a year.
And the ballot, if there's more than one person, from what I understand, is it goes to all the government entities that are part of the park
Correct.
plan. So in Marquette County, you got 19 townships, so each one of the townships would get a ballot.
Correct.
And that. So every one of the townships within the boundaries of whatever area it is would get a ballot.
Zone, yeah.
And then they would have to vote.
Mhm.
And I'll guarantee you, most of them will probably never fill it out or send it
No.
back, so you don't know what's gonna happen.
Most of the ballots reside in the circular file.
Yeah.
I would imagine. I mean, it's,
It all depends on how much you want to campaign.
Nobody's probably contested it, so they just stay on and stay on and stay on.
well, what it amounts to, I mean, realistically, what it amounts to is how involved do you want to be when they get involved in selection who the insurance carriers are, whether or not Kenrick is doing a good job on risk management, are the premiums in line, those kinds of things. And that's basically what Power Plan does, is they oversee primarily the risk management program.
You can put a sign in my yard.
I still have my township trustee sign, so I
I
can put one of those up.
I think we can move on, Lynn, but if you
Thank
decide that
you.
you want to pursue it, I believe that it's a consensus. You have our blessing and
Thank you.
support. Next item on our agenda is 8D, the Fire Department Training Update. Manager Gerard.
Chief Sims is here as well, and we've been working on this since the board first came up with the idea. We've looked at a number of different options. We narrowed that down to 3. Chief Sims, Assistant Chief Shanahan, and I got together and evaluated those 3. Did some telephone work, talked with them, and jointly selected what you have before you, Action Training Systems. It is an online system, which was one of the things that we wanted to do. We wanted to make it easy for the members of the department to access it either by computer, by cell phone, or whatever, to do the coursework and to obtain the materials. There is a formalized testing process where at the completion of the modules, the individuals are tested by ATS, and we receive documentation of that, which gets basically to giving us our documentation that we were looking for, that the officers and staff have been trained in various aspects of firefighting. It's not just through osmosis, basically, by being involved in the fire department for X number of years or whatever, but it's an actual formal training program that we can document for liability concerns that the board had expressed. There is a cost associated with it, and what we're asking, since the cost exceeds both of our independent spending authorities, it's right around $5,000, just short of $5,000. And what that does is buys us tuition, if you will. I'll call it tuition, or it's basically access to the materials and to the training program for up to 20 members of the department. And they can do that over a 5-year span, 5-year time frame. That doesn't mean it takes 5 years to do it. That means that we have those 20 slots for a period of 5 years, so we can, as long as we don't exceed 20, we can keep rolling people through it. If we end up not having 20 enroll, we get a credit back. So this includes the tuition, the materials, and what we're doing is we're targeting 2. The first 2 modules being what's called the first on scene module, which basically gives the training for if you're among the first on scene, how you size the fire up, those kinds of things, type of structures, those type of activities that most of our folks have been exposed to in the Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2 programs. And then the second program is the actual Fire Officer 1 program that is designed specifically for the officers, that gets into administration, it gets into training, it gets into the structure of the department, the structure of leadership, and those kinds of things, which is what we really wanted to get to initially with the officers. That both of those modules will be offered to anybody who wants to take them, who is either a current officer or wishes to be an officer in the future. or for training. Once we get into this program, there's a wide variety of other trainings, and I'll let Chief Sims speak to this if he wishes to, but all kinds of other type of trainings from hazardous materials, extrication, anything to do with fire operations. These are formal training programs that can be used in the department as well. So that is my recommendation as the personnel director, is that we go with ATS, that the board authorize the expenditure of up to $5,000. It's $4,925, but round it to $5,000 for for transit and everything else. But as our initial entry into this training program, and to get it started right away.
Thanks, Randy. What's the board's pleasure, comment, or somebody prepared to make a motion?
Question? Is any of this actually mandatory? Is even this first phase mandatory, or is this
Well,
all elective?
That's a good question, because there are parts of the, too close to this thing, parts of regulations are changing fairly constantly with regard to fire. There was just another section, OSHA changed some of their sections. It's Part 74, I think it is. Part 74, they've just changed some of the requirements on that. What happens is this training program, the ATS program, monitors those and complies with those requirements and regulations, and as those change, they amend their programs. So it keeps us in compliance as well, along with the all of the other requirements and regulations in the state of Michigan.
Other questions or comments? Pete?
Does Chief Sims have anything else to say?
Well, we'll give him that opportunity in just a moment. I just want to see if anybody had anything else. Do you want to come up, Bob? And because I do have a couple questions for you.
Well, and like Manager Gerard said, any updates to these programs in the next 5 years, we'll get those updates as part of the deal. And if we want to add additional people to these classes, it will be $20 per person, and it will last for 5 years. And any other classes we want to add to these programs, they will prorate
Oh, discount it
the
for...
price for the 5 year,
Okay. So I got a couple questions for you. The first one is, we go through first on scene and fire officer 1. If we have some officers or officer candidates who completed it in a year or whatever, and they feel like they would like to take something else, they look through the catalog or whatever, online or whatever, and they say, I'd like to take fire officer 2. Does that make sense to you? Would you approve that? I mean, is that something that would work for us or no?
they don't offer a fire officer 2 program right now.
Okay.
But Tara, yeah, say that they're updating their programs all the time.
Okay.
So down the road, they might be offering it.
Yeah, their program doesn't have something called Fire Officer 2, but it has the elements of Fire Officer 2 training as individual courses that can be added.
Without pulling all the stuff I had out from, a year ago, October, my memory's good, but not that good. I'm just remembering what, the concerns were from the MTA when we had those conversations, and I don't remember if it was Fire Officer 2 or what the recommendations were at that time. But I think our biggest concern was what the MTA highlighted for us as a board was that our single biggest liability for every township is usually our fire department, just by the sheer nature of a fire department and emergency responders. And I think that what we're trying to make sure is that we've given all of our department members the opportunity to be as well prepared as they possibly can when they respond. For a couple reasons. Clearly, we want the best response for our residents and visitors alike, but we also want to make sure from a liability standpoint that we've put the best prepared people out there. And if you're comfortable with it, I mean, I'm comfortable with it too. And, clearly Randy's making the recommendation. I'm assuming he's very comfortable. The other question I have goes with, since it's online, I'm assuming that after you take these, you take a test or an examination at the end. Is it like a one-on-one thing where you just have your own key and you have to go in and take an online test to?
Each person will have a PIN number. They'll log in, take the course, take the test. They'll get results of their test, and I'll get the results also.
Okay.
And then Fire Officer 1, Fire Officer 2, 85% of that is mostly administrative.
Okay.
You know, that's why we went with the first on scene. It's going to be, that's more size up, hands-on material, and so it's more hands-on training for all members.
Yeah, we opted to go more for the technical as opposed to the administrative at this point to get the officers basically the training that we felt the board wanted to see.
Okay. Dan?
And the officers, some of the officers sat down with Bob and we went over these programs, and I think we realized that, like he said, the Fire Officer 1 is a lot of administrative, which is more for full-time departments. I think we're gonna allow applicants to go ahead and do the whole thing, but we are gonna require some parts of that have to be done.
Okay.
If they want to do the administrative part, they can, but it really doesn't pertain to us. Also, you'll notice that Bob also included 3 DVDs that aren't online, but they will be used for makeup training and
training.
And training itself, SCBA, search and rescue, and rope rescue. So those are 3 we'll have that can be used in-house.
But it looks to me, at least, at first blush, after reading through all the stuff, that the challenges of training and initially we thought people had to go downstate, and then trying to find out where we could go, and then Randy, the one that you were researching initially, they only started in September of the year, and
Right.
So it's not as flexible as what we were looking for. It looks to me like you guys found one that works for everybody, and I appreciate the hard work and going through it. I know it's been a long process, but I certainly appreciate everything you went through to come up with a good solution.
Now, this is certainly a start, and basically I think we all recognize that, as we get into this, if this isn't meeting the needs that we think it needs to, we've got a $5,000 investment. It's not going to kill us to look at something else.
Okay. We have a motion.
I think one other quick thing is we do have to understand that the board understands this is not Michigan certified.
No.
This is an outside Michigan, so there won't be a Michigan certification for this. Although I'm assuming that it's
Almost the same criteria as Michigan. They will not, you'll get a certificate from them. You won't get certification, but they do certify any medical classes you take. The state of Michigan for firefighting is different from other states.
Okay.
Quite easily, but it's the same material, using the same books as Michigan uses, but Michigan doesn't.
But you don't
recognize
get the certification at the end.
Right.
Yeah,
It's unfortunate for our officers who go through all the training, and unfortunately for them, they don't achieve the state certification, even though they've gone through the training, and I think that's unfortunate. But the one was initially, the one you talked about, Randy, was the one that they would have gotten state certification, but that's the one that they only give at certain times of the year.
Right. There are basically 2 that I looked at that would result in state recognized certification without having to go through the state's own program. And I'll be a little more direct than Bob is. The state's very parochial about it. They want the money. I mean, you might as well just come right out. That's what they want. They want the money, and they want you to go through their program and dot their I's and cross their T's to get their certification. But you can also do the same thing through Delta College, which was one that we were talking about that's down in Saginaw. They have the online program, and so does Lake Superior State. They both have programs where you can end up with state certification and could even go on to get a degree in fire science.
Okay.
From them. But again, they're tied to a semester basis, like all colleges are, so the next time they would be offered isn't until September.
And also, I also think, I want to add that would also pretty much do a big number on the fire department budget, because obviously that's would be.
College credit.
It is.
all the
It's
credit hours you're
tuition.
paying
It's
is a lot more than what we're paying
Yeah,
for.
it's tuition-based, and that would be something we would have to get into on a reimbursement type of a basis, or, yeah, it gets,
It'd be one thing if we were just asking to update a couple of guys that are in the department or whatever.
Correct.
But we're trying to put everybody through it that's an officer candidate, and
now, then there was some discussion, I talked to several chiefs downstate that were involved in the educational process through Delta and through a couple of other colleges, and they're instructors in those programs, and they had indicated that there has been discussion, I wouldn't say serious discussion at this point, but discussion that Northern might be picking up some kind of a training program as well.
okay. Clerk Terry?
I'll move that we accept the recommendation for not to exceed $5,000 for the training program implementation. So that's going to cover the online course and then the training DVDs.
Correct, and setting up the program for
Setting the program
records and the
up.
whole shot.
I'll second it.
A motion is second. Other comment? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Let the training commence. Thank you, Bob.
All right, thank you.
The next item on our agenda, Bromley, Jim, can you believe it? We're already up to you guys.
Good evening.
Time flies, doesn't it?
Let me know when you're connected there, Bromley, and I'll switch it over there.
9A Public Works Construction Update. I'm guessing Bromley's going to walk us through where
Should be
we're
set
at
to
with
go.
the construction on our Public Works facility, and then we're going to move right into the considered Public Works billing number 17. All right. Thank you.
Good evening. I put together just a short progress update. We had a pretty light turnout for a walkthrough. Just kind of wanted to get you guys up to speed where we're at. And even for those of you that were there, there's been some pretty significant progress since that date. So, as we discussed previously, we were hitting about a week and a half to 2 weeks off. Right now, our target date is 2 weeks from Friday, which would put us May 2nd. Now, and keep in mind with that, as we've discussed, our target date, and we don't foresee anything stepping in the way of that. But that is just the interior of the building. The interior of the equipment storage space, in other words, the garage, and the administrative area, grinder rooms, meter rooms, that sort of thing. We will obviously with the site work, we've got a fair amount to do there as well. But we've also got the monument sign and the dumpster enclosure, that sort of thing. That's going to happen prior to the paving. Most of the stormwater grading and all that is pretty much set. We've got some fine tuning of that to do prior to the paving. Like I said, that will be some of the things that you'll see first are the dumpster enclosures, monument sign, that sort of thing prior to the paving. We will have some exterior painting of some of the existing steel that was left in place, for example, the hose tower, that sort of thing. We'll be getting color matched to the new steel siding, so some of that's going to take place in between there as well. But I'm pretty confident at this point that the 2nd of May, which would be a Friday, we should be able to turn that over.
They can take and move in for the insides of it.
Yeah,
It's really going to be weather permitting. I don't suppose you can give us a date as to the site work and everything else when you could possibly be completed, unless, I'm pretty sure winter will be gone by July 1. So.
We, tentatively, we kind of, I threw a date at Kirk and Randy. I got to believe by the middle of June would give us enough time for load limits to be lifted and to be able to finish the site work, get everything paved. So at this point, that's kind of what we're shooting for. But it just keeps on coming.
I get it.
More in line for tomorrow. Well, I guess we'll kind of take that one day by day. But I don't see any issues. You know, they still should be able to function, you know, out of the building up into that point, you know.
Okay.
We'll have little logistical items to play out with them as we're doing it. But we've already kind of discussed that with Overstar, who's a site contractor, about kind of dancing around that to be able to make sure that we don't get in their way of their daily functions.
Okay.
So with that, I'll just kind of move into what we're looking at here. The this picture basically is taken from the main entrance door through the administrative corridor, which this door stayed in place as the existing front door to the old fire department. As I said, the last progress presentation that we went through, none of these walls were here. All the trenches for all the underground plumbing, everything is in place. You'll see that all the walls are in place. Walls are painted. Doors, hardware are installed. All the hollow metal doors are painted in place, ready to go. We've got some glazing left to do in there. The ceiling grids have started to go in. Those should be done by the end of the week. And actually, the ceramic tile floor is due to start on Thursday. So
great.
it's going to start to see it really come to shape here pretty quickly here. Next picture. This is the employees' workroom, which also serves as a conference room. You can kind of see. I guess in this place right there, they've got a floor box there for a conference room table. The remainder of it is segmented off into 6 workstations for the public works employees to be able to hook up their computers and do the administrative sort of work. But again, you can see the ceilings have started to go in. All the utilities are done north of that, and they're going to start dropping their HVAC drops, sprinkler drops, starting to put in the lights and all that sort of thing.
This area where this would be like that new addition that was put in where that L used to be in the back?
No, actually this, the back wall right here would basically be the back wall of the old fire department training room.
Okay.
That's kind of the cutoff. Everything would it be east of that would be the new addition. We'll get into that, I believe, in the next picture here. The next photo is taken right from the line of the existing building in the new addition. What you can see right here, this would be the inside corner. The existing hose number is right there. That's what you're seeing is the edge of the structure there. As you can see there again, all the masonry, interior masonry walls are complete, painted, doors, hardware installed. Just a matter of finishing up some HVAC ducting and insulation above that, as well as ceiling grid, and then floors scheduled to go on after that as well.
And this is the restrooms and the showers.
This is kind of looking at it. The couple of doors that are right here are the utility rooms, mechanical room, electrical, communications room. The far door that you can see is actually the women's locker room. This here, just a quick shot inside one of the mechanical room, showing the 2 furnaces installed. You can see the corner of the water heater there. So this room, not having ceilings or actual floor finishes installed is pretty much complete at this point. Just a view from the men's locker room out into the to the corridor. Just off to the left of the picture there is the door to the women's locker room. You'll see the water fountains installed there. This photo is the men's locker room, and what you're seeing here is this is actually there's a changing area outside of the shower, just beyond this wall here is the shower area. This right here is the masonry bases for the lockers, metal lockers all the way around. The steel supports that you see here are actually supports for a solid plastic bench that'll be installed there at the base of the lockers. There again, everything is painted. Just waiting on some above ceiling utilities, flooring in the ceiling itself, and some fixtures. Now this view is basically, as it says, west facing, and where it is, it's taken from about the area of the between the existing building and the addition that went towards the water tanks in the back. As you can see, a lot of the primed red iron, that's all being freshened up and painted. You can see as we get further into the pictures, you get a little better idea of what it looks like painted. But it's really starting to brighten up in there as compared to what it was in the past. Yeah, fire suppression is just about done. They're just about complete with that. Short of the areas that they've got to do their drops into the acoustical ceiling and the administrative side. This just gives you a little better idea of what it looks like now as compared to what it looked like previously with the red oxide primer on the steel. You can see in the background, and you'll see it probably a little better in some more of the upcoming photos, the white steel liner panel that's on the walls, which is this area here. You can kind of see for some of you that were there, the spray insulation that was exposed there. Now all the steel liner panel is covered and all that. Kind of hard to see in this photo, but I think one of the upcoming photos might get a little better shot at it. Yeah, the photo on the left gives you a little bit better idea. Both photos are of the same area. One's just a little bit closer up, just to kind of give you a little better feel of what it's looking like now as compared to what it looked like as far with the primed red oxide. As you can see on the first photo on the left, the walls, the new steel wall liner panel. Below that is the new concrete foundation that was basically masonry filled and painted. Then above is just the steel structure, just with the dry fall paint on it. The right picture, like I said, just same corner. As you can see, the scaffold in the corner, just taken a little further back. Just wanted to give you kind of a close up on that. See the differences. I believe this is the last one. What we've got is, this is basically facing south, but what it is, it's showing you the grinder and the meter storage rooms, where you can see the mainly the horizontal smaller members in there. Those all get covered with that steel liner panel. It just hasn't been covered at this point. But this area right here is a large grinder room. this is where the ramp that was in question was set to come out, where we intend to put some stairs there in place of that. This right here is just the meter storage room. A lot of wall shelving. Basically, they'll utilize the walls all the way up. And I believe that they're going to be relocating some of the shelving units from their existing building next to the old town hall. Yes. Yeah, as you can see, right here is the new beam that was installed that we discussed at the last meeting to make that span all the way across.
Yep.
There was an intermediate column in between this column and the corner column, which then was taken out. Yep. So as I said, we've still got a little ways to go. I think we can easily get it in the next couple of weeks, but been real happy with the progress. So
Super.
I believe that is it.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Looks good. I haven't been in there.
Yeah, maybe I should have a lunch set up the next time. Maybe more people will show up.
Well, food talks, brother.
They will come.
I mean, it's so bad that here's my key to the building, and I still haven't been in there. Maybe on the way home tonight. Is there anything in there that's like a wet floor in case I walk in there?
No.
Thanks, Bromley. Anyone have questions for Bromley before we let him sit down? Looks good.
You would have attended the thing, you would have answered. We could have answered all your questions.
He could have. After I walk through there tonight, I'll stop and see him tomorrow with a bunch more.
Well, thanks for taking the time, you and Jim Romney, both of you. Thank you.
That's going to move us over to agenda item number 9B, considered Public Works billing number 17. You did get the transmittal on it in your packet, dated April 10th. In the amount of $252,734.19. Mr. Clark.
As Supervisor Lehman indicated that this was provided to the township on April 10th. Just to quickly go through it, I won't go into individual detail. That it did include demolition, winter conditions. Most of those expenses are almost fully satisfied now. Masonry, cold formed steel framing, carpentry, thermal insulation, sprayed insulation, formed metal wall panels, hollow metal doors. Those were two large items, which was indicated in the progress report. You saw much of that metal is installed. Gypsum board, ceramic tiling. Most of that is just for receiving the ceramic tiling. The installation is going on, as probably indicated, toward the end of this week. Toilet and bath accessories, fire suppression, mechanical, electrical, and general conditions, and contractor fee. This does have a 5% retainage, and it does have the admin fee added for a total of $252,734.19. Any individual questions on those billing amounts or detail, Bromley and I are more than happy to answer.
But what percentage are we through our payments on this contract, Jim?
Sec.
About 341,000 left.
Let's finish 340.
Oh, yes.
We're about 75%
Doesn't have a
or
total
more.
though. So that's what I was looking at the other day. We're approximately about 1.4 million. We're basically about 341,000 left. So we're almost about 82%. I would throw it at. So we're really close. And a majority of that will be some exterior work, but and then some of the final. Looking at some of the individual details, some of the satisfied columns right now are, I mean, site work is obviously, there's a large outstanding amount. but concrete is 100%. Flat work is 100%. Sprayed insulation, and foam insulate 100%. A lot of the categories. Framing is 100%. Boards 100%. A lot of the categories are very close to 100%. So.
Questions for Jim?
I will include that in my next billing as far as getting an individual percentage of.
I was just curious, as a, in a roundabout, I don't think you have to provide it, I was curious, and then once I see the number, you're right, probably about 82%, and that makes sense. If there's no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve progress payment number 17, Public Works Building number 6, in the
So
amount
moved.
of $252,734.19. We have motion and support. Any other comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.
I just wanted to indicate one thing that's outstanding right now. Bromley had brought out an issue that we're working with Kirk and Randy on, is the west side of the building, which would be the public presentation to the building, is going to be kind of flat and sterile looking, and we're looking at doing some different options. So we're having IDI do some west elevation shots to do maybe some different ideas on using metal and brick together to kind of break up, just so it's not one big flat sterile wall. And there should be no major cost differential in that. And Bromley, your comments are more than appreciated here.
I guess to give you a real quick heads up on what it is, what they're looking at doing is above the existing garage door right now. The way that the existing building was, the brick came up, and at the garage door openings, the steel was from edge door to edge door and all the way up to the eaves. As Jim said, it just seemed real sterile looking, so what we were talking about doing is the entrance door and the two windows that flank each side of that, taking steel all the way up in place in the masonry, just to give it a vertical break, because it seems like such a long horizontal expanse. And integrated is they're gonna draw it up so we can present it and have it looked at with the elevation lines.
Okay.
And what we're looking at is just changing the architectural finish and not really changing what type of material, or I mean, it's still the same material, so we're just trying to break it up a little bit and make it look a little more professional and a little more.
Which is, I mean, we're in the middle of a residential
what some of the
section,
people in the
right?
planning commission call pizzazz.
Oh. I almost went there, and I almost went there, and I didn't. Steve, if you're watching.
Okay, thank you.
Good one.
Thanks. We passed it, right? I had to go back and look. You can tell I'm suffering from my cold.
Did we vote on that?
Yeah. We passed it. 9C, consider budget amendment 2014-03. Clerk Rattari.
Present to the board the budget amendment, the third one of this year, 2014-3. As always, it'll be in the minutes that referenced. The highlights of it have a lot to do with our winter weather, so I'll read those. Authorization is requested to increase expenditures in wastewater and water funds. Salaries, which is the overtime, are directly related to freeze-ups. Also, the garage department and both funds will necessitate an increase for electricity and natural gas due to the cold winter, and payments for the old building. The wastewater collection system department will require an additional $10,000 related to freeze-ups used for supplies, repair parts, and outside services. Wastewater administration will require $3,000 extra for contracted services in 2014. Cartography software, Kennedy Industries lift station services, census software, and North Country Engineering, Vanderboom and Grandview Circle utility study. The offset will come from contingency, and I'll move that forward.
Second.
Motion and a second. And the offshoot is this, most of this is just weather-related to the increased expenditures because of the deep freeze that we've experienced.
It is. At the last board meeting, we reported a little over $22,000 had been expended, unanticipated expenditures. That's now increased to $32,900 based in the last 2 weeks of the events that have occurred. Unfortunately, most of our streets that we spent a lot of money repairing are now being damaged, so they're going to have to be redone.
And you move that. And you got a second?
Yes.
Board member comment? Not seeing any, so Clerk Rattari.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Truscott?
Yes.
Trustee Pompo?
Yes.
Trustee Durant?
Yes.
And Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Limita?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is 9D, consider the moratorium resolution. As you know, we've done this for the last, I believe, 18 months or longer. You see in your transmittal from Attorney Roger Zappa, it's just to move that we once again take the moratorium resolution on medical marijuana and move it ahead for another 6 months again, Randy?
Yeah, that's correct. And just to clarify, this is not prohibiting medical marijuana use, but basically what it is limiting the access to it and not allowing movement into the township of those outlet facilities that are either distributing marijuana or substances that mimic the effects of marijuana, spice, and all those things that you've heard about in the media recently. The intention is to ensure that our residents and our visitors aren't exposed to folks that are under the influence of things that they don't necessarily have a right to be under the influence of. There's a move afoot in the legislature basically to change the regulations so that pharmacies can be distribution points for medical marijuana. I don't know where that's going to go, but there is a strong movement afoot here locally as well within the city of Marquette. May impact the elections coming up. There's a fairly sizable group to generally legalize marijuana. The most recent issue that came up was a Supreme Court decision in the Grand Rapids area, and basically that community had banned the use of all marijuana, and that was found to be unconstitutional, that those individuals that have a medical certification should have access to it, but in a restricted manner. They had to get it from their direct care providers, not from an outlet of some other sort. So Roger has reviewed our moratorium, and although it was not in conflict with any of the legal issues, there are some questions that are pending that he made some slight modifications to, recommends that we adopt it again as a new resolution.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions on it? Clerk Rattari?
I'll make a motion to move the moratorium forward. It'll be referenced in the minutes also. And we do have a current one in place, but this one will supersede that. And it will go into effect to the end of 2014 if this is approved.
So the same resolution basically that we've been moving along, just with different dates, correct?
That's correct.
And some very minor changes, language changes to comply with some of the rulings that have come out.
Okay.
The impact is the same.
Motion and support. Any other comment? Seeing none. Clerk Rattari?
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Pompo?
Yes.
Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Durant?
Yes.
Trustee Truscott?
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
And Supervisor Limita.
Yes.
The moratorium is passed. It is in effect.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is 9E, consider City of Marquette versus Marquette Township Tax Tribunal Settlement Resolution. Hot off the press, and I do mean hot off the press. Received late this afternoon from the city. They discussed this last night at their meeting and approved a resolution. Just for background purposes, in 2012, our assessor came to me with language regarding some of the properties in the Heartwood Forest land, and upon the city's acceptance and implementation of that ad hoc Heartwood Forest Land Committee's report, they reclassified some properties in there and several parcel numbers as surplus development property instead of recreational property. Part of a settlement that we had with the city going back for a number of years included the fact that we would not charge the city taxes on the Heartwood Forest Land property as long as it was available for public recreational use, because we can see the greater good for not only Marquette Township residents, but the city of Marquette, visitors to the area, and other surrounding municipalities. When they adopted the ad hoc committee's report and basically changed the classification of that property, our assessor, through language in the state tax commission manuals, pointed out that it says reclassification of that property, then the assessor shall put it back on the tax rolls. We did. Marquette City challenged us, and we have a tax tribunal case pending. They did ask the courts for a summary disposition, basically to throw it out on that there was no merit to it. The courts ruled against them and believed that there may have been some merit to it. I've had a couple of meetings with Mayor Nemi from the city of Marquette to try to resolve this issue. And right from the beginning, the first time they came to Board of Review, I said it was real simple. If they made a resolution or motion to reclassify the property as recreational, then we didn't feel the need to put it back on the tax rolls. But because the way the language says the assessor shall place it back on there, not may, not could, but shall, in order to stay on the legal side of the state tax commission, we felt we had no other choice. Now flash forward a couple years, and here we are. Mayor Nemi and I discussed it a couple of times recently, and he put it on their agenda, and I'm happy to say that in front of you this evening you see that resolution from the city of Marquette. And as you can see in the bottom, therefore be it resolved, the city of Marquette officially relabels the following properties identified by the parcel numbers as being used for public and recreational purposes. Therefore, my recommendation to the board is that we now make a motion to direct legal counsel Roger Zappa to contact the tax tribunal in combination with the city's legal counsel, and let the tax tribunal know that we have reached a agreement, and that we no longer need to defend ourselves, or that they no longer wish to pursue relief in the Michigan Tax Tribunal.
So moved.
Support.
I have motion and support. Any questions from the board?
I just have one on the last one. They talk about the reclassification to the sale of the Marquette County Solid Waste Authority. Really, that's out of their realm right now, isn't it? Because they sold it, they don't have no say on it. It becomes part of the townships at this point in time, so.
It is, and that was, but part of it was their initial claim with the tax tribunal included that parcel number, and that's why they made note of it. There's no other questions.
Dennis, have they paid any tax?
Yeah, they actually had to pay. We will, as part of this, refund the taxes that were paid. It doesn't amount to much from the township standpoint. The amount of acreage that we're talking about is relatively small. We didn't place all of the Heartwood back on the tax roll, only those properties that were identified as surplus developmental property. Properties that were clearly identified as recreational property, we did not place back on the tax roll. So this was only roughly 560 acres, I believe, with all the various parcels that were labeled as surplus developmental property. Taxes were paid, and we will refund those. This is basically pushing a reset button. We'll have to collect it back from the entities that we passed it through to, and we will refund it to the city of Marquette. our main goal here was from a legal clarification standpoint. And we really didn't want to pursue it in the tax tribunal. This is all we asked for from the beginning, and I think it makes sense for everybody. It doesn't stop the city from, if they decide that they have someone who wants to purchase that 560 acres that they've identified and they want to put some type of development on there, this doesn't stop them from doing that. In fact, it would just go on our tax roll at that time, so it's not, anything that we would be against, as long as it fits within the current zoning. Unless all this is doing is recognizing that it is for public good, recreational property, unless and until some time the property is sold or changes hands or gets reclassified again by the city of Marquette. If they decide to develop it and they're actively marketing it to a developer, we would probably have to turn around and go in another direction. Anyone else?
So the motion's going to be to direct the Township Legal Counsel to move forward with the tax tribunal settlement with the city of Marquette.
Correct.
They will be working with their legal.
Well, with the city of Marquette, that'll rounds it out.
If there's no other comment, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, and I'd like to thank Mayor Nemi from the city of Marquette for his assistance in the resolution of this matter, as well as the rest of the commissioners. Next item on your agenda is 9F, discussion of board policies and procedures. Throwing this straight to Clerk Rattari.
Yeah, when I was looking at our other, the policy manual, I remembered that we have these two board policy manuals, and they're very outdated, for one thing. And we started the process in the policy governance, but we did not get there. So I'm just throwing the question out to the board. I think we need to update this because it's terribly outdated. It's not probably current with the law. And it's just for the board operating policies like the information flow and some of the other things. I discussed it with Supervisor Limata. He has some good suggestions for a policy manual that he got from another township, like a building place. We have somewhat that in the policy governance, but that's a totally different animal. It's not, tailored towards these. We do have the board conduct in place at the moment, so that's part of it. So I would just like the board's approval for, myself and Supervisor Limata to move forward in creation of a new manual for us and bring it back to the board. And this isn't going to happen right away, but in the next few months. And then go through it and then get rid of these old manuals and have a new one. So that's my comments on that.
What I will add to it is I did send a request up to Rob Thal, as you know, is an attorney with the MTA, and asked him if they had any starting points, if they had, kind of a set standard board and administrative policy manual or guide. Most of them are going to be very similar to ours, and I think everybody has gone through this, but, it just really spells out, everything that, especially a new board member, the Open Meetings Act, the FOIA Acts, meeting procedures, flow of information, roles and responsibilities of officers, roles and responsibilities of board members. A lot of the information, Clerk Rattari is right, we did cover it when we were designing policy governance. In fact, we worked a long time on it. I think some of us think that we passed it, because we worked so long on it. We kind of set some parameters for ourselves that we never moved forward. I do have a copy that I shared with Randy of, trying to remember the township, Morton Township maybe, that I thought was a pretty good example of what theirs is, and it's probably about half of what we have sitting in these two books. I don't think it needs to be as comprehensive, but I do think we should have an updated one that reflects more of who we are as a board and what we expect. And so if we use this as our guide, combine it with whatever we can get from Rob Thal, and then maybe incorporate the board code of conduct that we've developed and passed, as well as some of the parameters from policy governance. We can probably put together at least a working start, and then that would be updated and legally approved as a starting point. And then I thought maybe either we work on it in a work session, or if the board would rather put a committee together and just have, 3 board members as a committee meet together and work on it as well. Whatever the board's pleasure may be. Ideas?
I think I'd rather go the policy governance direction. We've already invested a lot of time and money in that, and I think, because I think it could, that seems like it's going backwards and starting over. We've already got some things in place just from policy governance. I think we need to at least look at it again, what it all entails, and see for sure if we're going to shelf that before you guys put a bunch of time and effort into a whole new manual.
When you're done with policy governance, basically what you have at the end is a policy manual.
Right, that's what I mean.
And I think that if you base your policy manual on what we've already put together from policy governance, the only things that, the difference between policy governance and your policy manual had to do with starting with that ends policy, that basically wouldn't be included in a normal policy manual, because with the ends policy, you're basically saying, you're starting at the end, you're saying, this is what our township looks like, here's what we believe in. That's not policy, it's more of a policy statement of who we are and what we do from a governance standpoint. So other than that ends policy, you'd still be able to put in from the administrative side, the executive limitations. All of those, if you remember when we were working it, all of those thou shall nots, those can still exist in that format. I don't think we have to reinvent anything with what we have. I think we use that as the starter for the manual. And it'll be interesting to see what Rob, I just sent that email out to him yesterday, and he said he'll get back to me, hopefully this week. So we'll see what he's got combined with policy governance, and then we may have a manual after that, I mean, to be honest with you.
But we really haven't finished the policy governance part. We
have not, and I mean, we're gonna, to start back where we left off, because it's the length of time that's gone past, we're gonna have to go backwards somewhat to revisit what policy governance is. If the board wants to move in that direction of policy governance, my first recommendation is we buy a couple of books on policy governance from Jonathan Carver, and have them sent here, and have board members take it and read it. And if after reviewing policy governance, there's a strong urge to move forward, then we contact, whether it's Susan Radwan or someone else, and we start the process up again. But I think until we know that there's buy-in with policy governance, because I don't think it's there. And I hate to see the money spent on it.
Can we get a consensus tonight as to whether that's approachable?
I mean,
If not, then you go with your manual.
you guys want to explore it? Would you like to get some books on policy governance so that you can see it and read through it and see if it's the direction we want to head in? I mean, books are cheap, right? I mean, I can get them regardless, and.
You got some good, through the MTA flyer, or little brochures on that. I have some of those in that big book there.
I've got
I want that book, Dennis, and
Policy Matters. It's in my office, and anyone can go grab that anytime they want. That's from the MTA. It's kind of a book on how to develop policies. They kind of lean towards policy governance. Clearly, the MTA loves policy governance, but it's not adopted by a lot of the 1,240 townships in the state of Michigan.
I'd like to see what you get back, the next discussion, you get it back from him, and let's discuss it again, and, because I was all in favor for it, because I could see the positive things and the good merits of the program, so.
Dan?
I think we've been working towards a policy governance. I think we've taken some of the good parts out of it that we've used. For instance, our managers' goals and I think by designing our own personnel manual, I think we pretty much would cover basically everything that's going to be. The whole concept of policy governance, I think, is just it's to me it's a confusing issue. I understand where a lot of it went, but to revisit it again, I don't know. I don't know if I have to agree. I don't think initially the buy-in was there. I think we've taken some of the ideas from policy governance and implemented them ourselves, and I think by going with this personnel manual, I think we'll just be implementing more of those ideas without actually revisiting the policy governance part of it.
Secretary?
Again, this was my objective as clerk for this term, is to clean this up, and that's what I'm trying to do. No matter if we do policy governance, do our own manual, what have you, I just know that this is not a good thing for a new board member or whoever, it comes after us. It just doesn't make sense, a lot of it. So if we can, make a new manual, and make it concise, and I think at one time, we're going to do that before the elections, and we never got there. So this is another attempt to do that. And I agree with Dan, it doesn't matter to me if it's policy governance or our own. I still think we're going to end up somewhat in the same area, because policy governance is a little different than how we run things. But I just want to see something that we all accept and buy into.
Ernie?
I think regardless which way we go, we're still going to have to look at our policies. There's no question about that. And I'd like to see what we get back from MTA, and continue to look at the policy manuals, because, like I say, you're still going to have to do it. It may be in a different form than we're talking about now, but I'd wait until we see that and then start looking at the policy manuals, because you have to look at every one of them and see how you're going to address them and that.
What do you think, Diana?
I think we should, I like Dan's idea, and I also like just to do the book and, start from there. Because I'm undecided about the policy governance. I mean, there's some good things and some bad things, so it's like I'm kind of undecided with that.
Okay. What I would do as a jumping off point in order to move us forward, we have a draft of the Marquette Township Board Policy Manual that we put together over the weeks that we worked on policy governance, and especially through that long week where we really hashed out the manual. I'm going to forward out a copy of that to the board to review. And what I'd like to do is move this forward to the next agenda then, and give everyone a chance to reread the policies that we came up with during those work sessions from policy governance. These are in Clerk Rattari's office if you want to get an opportunity to revisit what we currently have, and I think you'll understand his request to update them before we bequeath these upon our replacements at some future date. And I think if you look at what we came up with and kind of look at this, I also have that copy, and I'll put it with this of the Morton Township one. And then as soon as I get something from the MTA attorneys, I'll email that out to the board. Just remind you not to discuss it until we're back in open session. Clerk Rattari?
I'll move this item to the next agenda as a forum discussion item, not to exceed 30 minutes. And hopefully you will have some discussion. And in the forum discussion, we won't take any action on it. We'll just have some general discussion. That's a motion.
We have motion and support. There's no other comments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. If nothing else, it'll get us talking about policy. Manager's report, you do have his written transmittal. Manager Gerard.
first portion of my report, where I welcome warmer temperatures because they're obviously gone now. But at any event, the impact is back again. We're back, driving frost back down, cold temperatures, more snow, more forecast for tomorrow and Thursday. So I don't know when this is going to break. We are continuing to address the primarily now it's the wastewater, the sewer side of it, in terms of the HDPE plastic piping that you can't thaw by heating with the welder. There's no connectivity, so we're still pumping out the grinder pumps twice a day in most cases to allow the residents to be able to stay in their homes and utilize their facilities on a limited basis. We're asking folks not to to minimize the laundry and things such as that until we can get their pipes open. But that is continuing. We are faring better than most of the other communities around. Not only are they experiencing the same freeze issues that we have, but they are experiencing water shortages, which we're not experiencing. Cities to the west are having difficulty letting the let run programs. They're running into supply difficulties. So with that, you saw the overtime report tonight. We're expending about $10,000 every pay period on freeze-up issues that, as was mentioned previously by Clerk Rotari, was not planned, was not budgeted. It's coming out of our reserve funds, and that's why they're there. So, I mean, that does serve a benefit. I did participate in the 20th anniversary celebration with Walmart, along with the fire department. The fire department was well represented, had the aerial over there set up on display, and participated in the celebration. Walmart does have its detractors nationally, but here locally they've been a good partner with the township. They've been there when we've asked them to support programs and to contribute to the township, and I hope that they'll continue to do that as part of our business community. But it's hard to believe that it's been 20 years already since they opened, but time flies. Just a very brief discussion of the tax tribunal. We did, the assessor Dulcie Storch and I went to the Court of Appeals hearing on the 8th. Went down to Lansing. The presentation was well done. I thought our case was well made. The three judges appeared to understand the issues. They had appeared to review the briefs that had been submitted, as well as the supplemental briefs. Indicated that they had done their own research, didn't go into any details on what that was, but the indication was that they had had conversations with other participants in tax tribunal beyond us. Brighton Township was also represented. Denny Olson, the outgoing this year president of the Michigan Township Association, was there representing. He is the supervisor of Brighton Township, along with their assessor, and along with the Dickinson County equalization director was there as well. There were approximately 30, maybe 35 people in the gallery. There were a number of cases that were scheduled. After our case was finished, more than 20 got up and left. So it was pretty apparent to the judges that the bulk of the folks there in attendance were there with interest in our case. We are advised that it could be as early as 2 weeks, could be as long as 4 to 6 weeks before we get a decision. That was from our attorney, who was trying to judge basically by the questions that the judges asked, and by their knowledge of the issues that came up with their banter and their counterpoint back and forth with the two presenters as well, that they pretty fairly understood the issues of the case and the importance of the case. So we're now waiting for that answer. That's a significant answer. We do have a number of pending stipulations that are dependent upon what the outcome of this case is. Beyond that, I guess open to any questions.
Questions for Manager Gerard?
I have one. I'll just stick it to one, because my other question is when we're going to clean up our streets.
As soon as they're uncovered with snow and ice, maybe.
I'll leave that one go for a couple of weeks. I'm trying to work on a meeting with our representative, Casperson, Kivala, and for the Township Association. We'll try to get something together, so maybe we can meet here or something and get everyone together. So that, in the future, that's what we're trying to work on. So that's it.
Any other questions for Manager Gerard? Seeing none. Close the manager's report. Thank Randy. Open up for public comment. John, feel like talking to us tonight? We'll close public comment. Additional comments from board members. Ernie, I know you've got some.
I think they're past now. I was at the Marquette Township Business Association today, and it's very interesting to go there and see where they're going, what they're trying to do in that, trying to get the members involved in that, and how they're portraying themselves within the township and how they're portraying the township to really the big community outside of the township and that. They're trying to do a lot in that. The one item was the beautification committee that they have, and they have a proposal outline that they're working on, and primary thing is to update the welcome signs on the east and west entrances of the township and that. Looking at how they can make it more presentable and more, how do I want to put it? When you go in there, it stands out to you right away, rather than, we have signs there, but they want to do something that's a little bit better than that, so. That will probably be formulated into the future, and they may come to the board and see if the board can help them in some way or other, and that, at that point in time. I do have a layout here, which I'll give to the manager, so he can send it out to all the board members as to what their primary outline is right now, the way they're going in that. And they're interested in trying to do something to enhance the area in 41 at that, so. That takes care of the other one is, talking about the freeze up and that and the costs and that. If you looked at the water report for the last month, it's 26% above previous times. So when you look at that, it's dollars that we're not getting, but yet we're spending and that. And the biggest thing is on the wastewater. We're going to be paying for all that without no income. So it's a cost yet
It's a double cost.
to address, and it's overall.
It's a double cost.
Yeah, it's a double cost in that too, so I'll quit from now.
Dan?
Just to go back on something you said, Ernie, I'm just curious if, I know the township board has at times tried to do a cleanup on the medians, and unfortunately some of us backs are hurting a little bit more bending over, but I'm just curious as if the business associations would be interested in taking segments of the corridor itself and just, for instance, one little section to clean with their business people to.
That hasn't been addressed. I can bring it up at the next meeting and see if they would be interested to, see if they could do something in that.
I would, they would have more people probably get it done a lot quicker, especially if they're only taking a section. I'm not talking, the whole run, but. Yeah.
Well, some yes, some no.
No.
We did actually talk about it about a year ago of actually adopting it, and we'd started looking into talking to MDOT and what would be involved, and it kind of fizzled away, not enough interest, but the folks on the board now are a little more aggressive, so it may come out.
I will bring it up at the next meeting.
Yeah, Dan's got a good idea. I mean, you can just set the natural breaks in the islands are fronted by businesses on both sides, and if they just did the ones in front of their businesses, that'd be big help.
It's only 3 times a year. If you sign up for Adopt the Highway, it's 3 times a year.
Other comments from board members? Diana? Lynn?
Just one more little one. Treasurer Johnson and I attended the Northern Michigan Public Service Academy, a collaborative approach to parks, recreation, and natural resources. And I just had a few notes on it. It was mostly information, and they did have us do a couple little breakout sessions of trying to pinpoint in our areas, township, city, county, whatever, what was marketable, attractive, the assets, and trying to pin it down to just 1 or 2. And they encouraged us to work with the DNR and to talk with them, and some of the state organizations are actually doing more of that. They're trying to, especially the DNR is trying to get a little bit more, I don't know, public, or I don't know what the right term would be. They want to get more involved locally and be more aware, and then take whatever they need or find out back to the Lansing level. And we pretty much decided in our little group for Marquette County that the Lake Superior shoreline and the Iron Ore Heritage Trail with the history of mining were our main things. Those were the Heritage Trail and the mining kind of went together in the shoreline. I think that's about it. They
Ernie?
talked about placemaking too.
I apologize, I forgot all about it until Lynn brought it up and that. At the presentation, two of them had very good presentations, but it was all PowerPoint. So it was kind of hard to take any notes. So I talked to both of them afterwards and gave them my card, and they're supposed to send me their presentations. And once I get them, I will distribute them to all of you and that too. And I still am trying to get a hold of that lady from Michigan State and her 6 or 7 word letter up there on the screen as to what it meant about senior citizens and that. You remember what that?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get that. It was very comical, the way it was laid out and that too. So once I get that, I'll send it out to everybody.
Thanks, Ernie. Couple things. Peter White Public Library Director Pam Christensen has asked to be on our agenda. She will be on the agenda for May 6th to come and discuss renewal of the library millage. We also are going to ask a gentleman who has expressed some interest in the board to extend the bike route signs, those green signs that show bicyclists on it, down the County Road 550 with the new reconstruction out there, and they do have a bike lane in there, and he's wondering if we couldn't do that. He would like to address the board and has asked for some time. I'll put him on the next agenda. We'll forward that policy discussion, and then I think it's time that we start talking about, as we talked about the the Marquette Township Business Association. It's time for us to hold a joint meeting with them, and maybe that's a next meeting. I'll throw that on there. Maybe we can get some dates that we can offer up to the Township Business Association and see if they can sit down with us as well. The road millage, we're not sure about what's going to happen with road millage. I know the road committee's working hard on what they put together and what that is going to look like as far as if we can get it on November ballot. I think we need to do something, but whether it is the aggressive plan that they had presented, or if it's just a continuation for a year or two of what we currently have, I think that will be on our agendas overcoming the next, because it's something we need to move on rather quickly. It'll be on in one of the next couple of meetings. And lastly, this weekend, starting on Friday, softball in the Dome. It is the Spring Swing Softball Tournament. And I want to make sure, if you really feel like having something that will put you into a spring mood, step down and watch high school girls compete from all over the UP and Lower Michigan. Starting at 2 o'clock on Friday, going till about 11:30 at night, and then again starting up at 8 a.m. on Saturday, and going till midnight or so. I will be there that entire time if you're looking for me.
Too bad you're going to be sick and you can't make that.
I don't think they'll let me get away with that.
Now that you've announced that the library and director will be at our May 6th meeting, I know you're past public comment.
Oh, no, I'll allow it, John.
With the presentation that will be made at your May 6th meeting, I think it's important for you to review something that I've reported. John Marks, 155 Hidden Springs. I don't represent any group at this point, and I only represent myself, but I've got 2 points I'd like to make for you to keep in mind when the presentation is made by the Peter White Public Library Director. When they announce how many card holders are in the township, keep in mind that obtaining a membership card in the township, if you're a member of a 5-member family, they count that as 5 card holders. Keep that in mind, because it really makes a little bit of their presentation something you need to think about. The second point that they always make is that the millage assessed to townships that want to belong to the library is much like the school district, MATS, or the county offices. Millage is the same across the board. What they fail to tell you, and I want you to remember this, is that we don't get to elect the people like you do at MAPS, like you do in the county. They won't allow us to be an appointed member of their administrative board of the library. And they will pretend that it's the same as a millage assessed for the county, the same as a millage assessed, and they are not encumbered by state law. They are encumbered by their own will to maintain this unfair, unreasonable assessment to this township. Thank you.
Thanks, John. And that, Ernie?
Just one thing I forgot about, I brought up DDA membership to the Business Association. And there was one individual that professed some interest, and we told that individual to contact the manager and that. So if anything comes up, I don't know, but I asked them to go back to their membership, back there, whoever's in the area that they know, let them know that we do need members.
Super. Clerk Terry?
Well, one last comment is a week from today, April 22nd, is your last time to get a petition to run for a county board or any other position. If you're going to be a partisan, which is a Democrat or Republican, anything for the August election for a millage is pretty much not going to happen because you have to have it in by next week. So anything we have to the end of July to get anything for the November election that we want on as far as millage or any other thing. And for the August election, you have 30 days preceding it to register to vote. And that's all I have for those important election dates coming up.
Thank you.
Dennis, a question for you. Will we have, or were you thinking about us having a forum discussion type thing if Director Christensen comes? Or would you save that for a different meeting?
It doesn't matter to me. We already have one forum discussion on, so I probably would prefer not to have one at the next agenda, put it on after. But, we're going to have to move, at that time, whether somebody wants to move forward with library millage or do something else with it, if we want to have that in a forum discussion. I mean, it's whatever the board chooses. I think that we take much like we always do, Peter White Public Library comes in and makes the formal request to extend the millage, and then the board usually digests it and has it on the next agenda. If there's nothing else, I would entertain a...
Motion to adjourn.
That's the one I was looking for. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? This meeting is adjourned.